People that work on movie sets, what are the most entitled actors you have ever met? I used to work in the industry for a while. Asked some colleagues about the worst people they've worked with. More than one said Steven Seagal was a douchebag. Another said Mike Myers was a nasty piece of work. Third hand here, so who knows. But a person I know has worked with Kevin Smith. During the filming of Live Free or Die Hard they were shooting Kevin's scenes. I guess the call time was 7 am. Everyone is ready, lights on, sound check, yada yada. No Bruce Willis. Turns out he was at a nearby bar having mimosas. The aide that went to get him was told, "I'm John Mulcaine." What are they gonna do? Fire me. Or something to that effect. To Kevin's estimation $90K-ish were wasted in pay, rental fees and whatnot waiting on Bruce to be ready to go. Also a TV set, James Corden is an absolute jackass, not the funny happy-go-lucky guy you see on TV. I was playing a background doctor on an type drama a couple years ago. While rehearsing a scene, one of the actresses said to the performer next to me, "Tell him he can't stand there." She was referring to me. I adjusted my position and asked, "Is here okay?" She said, again to the actor next to me, "Tell him I don't care, just stay out of my way." I asked, "Is there some reason you're not addressing me directly?" And she turned around and walked away. A few minutes late the scene was shot without further incident. I have no idea who this actress is. Faye Dunaway. She wasn't one of the stars. Stress this enough. Faye Dunaway. I've had dealings with her personally and can vouch for her entitledness and nastiness, but my friend who works on movie sets has horror stories. Extremely demanding, and also picky. She brings her scales with her everywhere and will make anyone catering weigh it up in front of her. She has a no eye contact rule, which must never be disobeyed, and she also yells and screams when things do not go her way. I try to remember that everyone has bad days and good, and my interactions with people on a professional level can be just that, a bad day or a good day. But that being said, working with Jonathan Frakes was so wonderful that at the end of our time together, I nearly turned around and said, "I love you, Dad." Everything this kid who grew up wanting to be Commander Riker could hope for. I went to school with a guy who wound up co-starring in a feature film. I saw him in the bar one night. He walked up to this table of women and said, "So, who wants my autograph?" He even had a pen. The women had no idea who he was because the movie he'd been in was some short-run B movie nobody had even heard of. Insecure people who gain any sort of fame and recognition are the most cringy of all. Bryan Callen, most famous from Mad TV, is a major douchebag. He had a meltdown and screamed at everyone because a PA didn't get his coffee fast enough. He gave me dirty looks during filming and I couldn't tell if he was into me or was pissed at me, but it made me uncomfortable. I have a friend who works on a lot of movies, so she has worked with a ton of people. From what I remember, here are her thoughts on different people. Jake Gyllenhaal's method acting style and requirements are annoying and strict, so he can often be rude and hard to work with. Lawrence Fishburne initially comes off as a dick and absolutely hates when you call him Larry, but he can swiftly turn that around and be a great guy and your best friend. Keanu Reeves is everything amazing you'd expect him to be, but because he is so personable he doesn't have too many intimate one-on-ones with people. Emma Watson is a bit self-involved. Matt Damon is super cool, funny, and intelligent. James McAvoy is stellar to work with. Apparently, she also has a huge crush on him. M. Night Shyamalan is apparently an amazing father and one of the best bosses to work for. I've heard several stories about the work he puts into being a great family man. 50 Cent is goddamned hilarious. He was hanging out on set with my friend and a white girl in a kimono walked by and he yelled out, "Oh shit. They got the Asian jump off in here." Russell Crowe is apparently super down to earth, but he can get a bit isolated if you catch him while he's focusing. Christian Bale acts kind of like Keanu, but he also can be so focused on his work that he kind of forgets to interact with people. Ryan Gosling is apparently hilarious and lovely. Bryan Cranston is also what you'd expect. He's a super nice guy who acts kind of like a father figure to most people. PA. Back in 2004-05, Jake Gyllenhaal and Emma Watson are the worst I've heard about low maintenance, and it was US talent that was the opposite, with exceptions of course. On the films I worked on, Scarlett Johansson was very high maintenance. It was her first tent-pole film and I think it went to her head a little bit. She kept demanding extra things left and right and it was a miserable experience for most of the paw on set. Cool and low-key actors on set: Ewan McGregor, Steve Buscemi, Sean Bean, Michael Clark Duncan, Rip, Ice Cube, Samuel L. Jackson, William Dafoe, Danny DeVito, Tim Roth, Forrest Whitaker, Kelsey Grammer. For the most part the actors were generally good. If you want to know the most entitled person I had to deal with, it was hands down Michael Bay. He is an asshole of the first order, and anyone associated with him, his bodyguard, assistants, his 2 huge-ass dogs, and some of his other staff are all straight entitled idiots. Bruce Vilanch demanded I serve him his Skittles while in my underwear. I was young and wanted to get into the industry, so I, regretfully, did it. Not that it's any surprise to anyone, but Michael Cera is a huge fucking asshole. I watched so many young musicians come up to him during the Sex Bob tour, come up to him to talk about music or gush about how he inspired them, only for him to either brush them off completely, ask them why they're talking to him, or just have security come take them away. Total dick. I did a bunch of acting in a past life, and had a chance to work with some folks. No horror stories from what I remember. The most entitled people I worked with were the mid-range actors, actresses. The 3 main ones I can think of. Matt Damon, one of the nicest and smartest guys I've ever met. Genuinely such a good person. My first day on set, I'm a nobody, he sought me out and introduced himself as, "Hi, I'm Matt," set the tone for who he genuinely is. Owen Wilson, totally different persona on camera and off camera. He's absolutely not mean or rude or anything bad, he's just very introverted and quiet. Billy Bob Thornton, freaking hilarious and so smart. Such a nice guy, and he was always very cool to everyone around. Shia LaBeouf, witty and jokes about everything. As a real asshole. My mom worked security for Kanye West and she said he was lovely, as was 50 Cent. Will Young was a knob. Not actors. I know, I used to work in a certain job for the movie industry. My whole family still does. There are a few groups of people on set who get to see the talent as they really are away from the spotlight, who get so good at not interacting with them that the stars forget someone is there, and this one is one of them. Now, in the biz, you get treated a lot of different ways, and most times you just shrug it off and act like a professional because you are being paid stupid good money to drive and everyone has bad days. Plus, this demographic of people use drugs and alcohol more frequently than most. So you never really know what's going on with them, and you never want to burn a bridge for work because the industry can go up or down. Work is not always steady. With that said, the following experiences are about people who are consistently, over weeks, months, or years, insufferable dickheads to multiple people. There is a documented set of data points to show a trend of indiscriminate assholery over time. And #X200B. 1 Chris fucking O'Donnell. Hands down the worst. This asshole is literally the worst I have seen in the industry. This extremely minor television actor and former model, see, his fat-ass neck, thinks he is not only talented but divine and will wonder aloud why lessers are doing something near him. Chris once complained to production that a slightly overweight security guard was assigned to an area near catering. Fuck Chris O'Donnell. Chris, if you're reading this, you are a fucking pole smoker and your neck is fat. Everyone laughs at you when you are not around, especially production. 2 Helen Hunt. More like Helen Cunt. 3 If Helen and Chris got together and got to knockin' hooves, the ground would open up and hell would regurgitate Katherine Heigl. 4 I watched Marissa Tomei yell at a PA who had just slipped and broken his leg in front of her to get out of her way. 5 Jamie Foxx was such a racist and mean motherfucker on Ray that IA Driver took the meanest, waxiest, smelliest dump in history in his trailer. Extremely unprofessional, but it immediately raised crewmember morale as everyone knew this fucking baby came back to the trailer one day to find his toilet destroyed with remnants in and outside of it. 6 Steven Seagal. Imagine forming your entire identity and life's work around being an action hero martial artist only to end up being a hairy lard ass. It must be like starting out looking like Pierce Brosnan and Pokémon evolving into Jesse Ventura. And #X200B. And #X200B. There are also some really cool people out there. My favorites. 1 LL Cool J, 2 Machine Gun Kelly, even if he's just a big pothead. 3 Lindsay Lohan. I haven't seen her in a while, I worked with her back when people didn't really know she had a drinking problem. She pulled the old Grey Goose in a water bottle move. I thought she was a great person, just had problems. I hope she found help. 4 Howard Stern and the Stern Show in general. Howard talks about how high maintenance he is, but his staff is very good about preparing you, and he never gave me shit as long as my ducks were in a row. I don't particularly care for his wife Beth, seems like she's only nice to you if you're someone. 5 Mark Harmon is the fucking man. And #X200B. Here are some people who I found to be not good or bad, just strange. 1 Gerard Butler is about 18 years old in his head. 2 Christopher Walken is literally just as insane as you might think. 3 Joaquin Phoenix is like that guy who wants to be your friend but is impaired by several layers of mental illness. 4 Samuel L. Jackson is very into porn. No, you don't get it, very big fan of porn. 5 Tom Cruise is a fucking wacko. No surprise here. If Tom decided to talk to you, he would get inappropriately interested in minutia about you. I mentioned I liked 3 creamers in my coffee and he thought it was just about the most interesting fucking thing he had ever heard in his life.